Bridget Jones's Diary. Were the books or movies better? Let's dive in and decide. Let's start with the differences between the characters from the page to the screen. First up, we have our titular protagonist, Bridget Jones, played by Oscar winner Renée Zellweger. In the books, she is in her early 30s, of average height and considered slim. The books constantly emphasize her struggles with weight and self-image. In the movies, she is a pretty close match to this description. Her self-image and weight struggles are mentioned throughout the first movie, but the story doesn't go into as much detail as the books. Next up is Daniel Cleaver, played by Hugh Grant. In the books, he is described as arrogant, self-centered, and passive-aggressively cruel. He's more of a narcissist in the books. In the movies, he is more likable and charming. Although he's still a womanizer, he's played with humor and magnetism that makes him more sympathetic. He is also less cruel and seems more immature than malicious in the movies. Completing the original love triangle is Mark Darcy, played by Colin Firth. In the books, he is reserved and socially awkward. He is a successful human rights barrister, and while he's not outwardly charming, he's dependable and intelligent with a strong moral compass. In the movies, Firth keeps much of the same personality, but adds a subtle vulnerability that makes him more romantic on screen than in the books. Caspar Knopf plays William Billy Darcy, Bridget and Mark's son. In the books, he's about 7 years old when he's first introduced, and his emotional journey is only mentioned in his mother's diary. The book does not show him emotionally processing or speaking about the loss of his father. In the movie, he is portrayed as 9 years old and struggling with his father's death. He worries about forgetting Mark and shows his grief through his actions and conversations. We also have to talk about Mr. Walkir, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor in Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. In the book, he is a supporting character seen through Bridget's observations. He is strict and emotionally measured, and in the movie, he is introduced as a buttoned-up, rigid, and orderly man who forms the core of Bridget's romantic journey after becoming a widow. Now, let's talk about the biggest story changes between the books and the movies. For one, some of the characters from the books weren't included in the movies. In the books, Bridget has a brother named Jamie, but he isn't an important part of the narrative and rarely appears in the novels. She also has a grandma in the books that didn't make the transition. Gary, Bridget's builder, who stole her money and left a huge hole in her apartment, was featured in the books, but wasn't in the movies. Also, Jack Qwant, played by Patrick Dempsey in Bridget Jones's Baby, was never in the books. He was created for the movie and replaced Daniel after he supposedly died in the second movie, since the movie needed a love interest to compete with Firth's Mark Darcy. And speaking of character changes, Rebecca, played by Jacinda Barrett, is a very different character. She has a larger role in the books, but plays a much smaller role in the movies, only appearing in Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason. In the books, she tries to cause a rift between Mark and Bridget so she can have him all to herself, but in the movie, she has a whole new personality. She is sweet and endearing and loves Bridget, which makes her more relatable compared to the novels, and less of a rival. Another major change is how Bridget and Daniel's relationship was portrayed. Throughout the novels, they had an on-again, off-again relationship, as Daniel is emotionally unavailable and Bridget breaks up with him after she catches him cheating on her. Their relationship in the books was often on the edge due to him not being able to fully commit to her. In the movies, he's portrayed as sweet and a loving boyfriend whose only fault is cheating on Bridget. Also, after the breakup in the books, Daniel gets a job as a travel presenter at another TV studio. However, in the movies, Daniel gets a job with Bridget at Sit Up. The two never had a professional relationship in the books after she left the publishing company, and the only times they interact were when Daniel was begging Bridget to take him back. Another major change is the ending of The Edge of Reason. After spending the better part of the novel broken up, Mark and Bridget get back together at the end. Mark asked Bridget to go to Thailand with him after they rekindled their relationship. However, In the movie, the couple get engaged after Bridget declared her love for Mark. In the books, Bridget and Mark don't get engaged that quickly after reuniting. With the last book being adapted into the movies 12 years after the book was published, a lot has changed in the world of dating. Bridget's friend Miranda sets her up a dating profile in which she makes sure to emphasize that she is a widow ready for some fun. In the novel, she does use social media, but she doesn't sign up for any dating apps. And then we have to talk about her actual diaries in the movies. In the novels, they were a safe place for her where she talked about everything under the sun: her weight, how much she drank, the woes of being a single woman in her 30s. And yes, the movies have some portions of her diary entries, but they really left out a significant portion of them in favor of focusing on the entries that were about her love life. Now, let's talk about what the movies got right and what they got wrong. One of the main strengths of the movies is the perfect casting of the titular character. Renée Zellweger was iconic as Bridget Jones and even received an Oscar nomination for her performance. Her portrayal perfectly captured the traits, both the good and the bad ones, that made Bridget Jones such a relatable character for people beyond the books. Many women easily saw themselves in her struggles with love and work and self-acceptance. And Zellweger captured Bridget's sensitivity and insecurities and humor. The movies leaned into a lot of the comedic aspects of her life, exaggerating her misadventures and awkward situations for laughs. Zellweger's comedic timing contributed to the movie's overall lightheartedness. Another major strength is that the movies maintain the core themes of the novels while also adding on to them in a visual way. Despite a lot of the plot changes, the movies have always stayed true to the core themes that author Helen Fielding wrote in her books, namely the search for love, the importance of friendship, and the challenges of navigating life in your 30s. They also explored the concept of urban families, highlighting the importance of close-knit groups of friends who provide support and love for each other. These themes have resonated with audiences. However, as much as the movie series has its strengths, it also had a few weaknesses too. One major weakness of the adaptations is the loss of the social commentary and satire that made the book so popular in the first place. The first book was a sharp, witty reimagining of Pride and Prejudice, and a satire on the pressures faced by single women in the UK, and much of this was removed from the movies. Instead, the movies emphasize romantic hijinks and comedic misunderstandings over social critique to lean more into the romantic comedy genre. Some issues present in the books were then removed or simplified, like toxic workplace dynamics, media's influence on women's self-worth, and class-based pressures. Which brings me to another weakness: the over-reliance on physical comedy and embarrassment humor for the sake of the rom-com genre. A recurring pattern in the movies is the heavy use of slapstick and humiliation-based humor, like Bridget falling down, saying the wrong thing, wearing the wrong clothes, or being caught in awkward situations with other guys. While these moments can be funny, the frequency and intensity sometimes border on a caricature. Rather than constantly showcasing Bridget's intelligence and resilience, the movies often frame her as an object of ridicule, turning vulnerability into spectacle instead of insight. This sometimes reduces the emotional complexity of her character and alienates some audience members who were fans of the original books. So, which one wins, the books or the movies? For me, I think the movies ultimately win. They really brought to life the series that Helen Fielding wonderfully created. Plus, they captured the humor of the books and Bridget's sensitivity and insecurities that made her such a lovable character. But what do you think? Did the adaptations do the books justice? Have you read the books? Which do you prefer? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and I'll see you next time right here on Collider.